Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome once again to another Property Quorum. As usual, I'm joined by the stalwarts of Hamish, McLay, Convey, Chris Gilsenan of Rude Home, and of course, our team legal eagle, Juliet, Baboolal of gunnercooke. Now, look, I have to fess up to something. We were originally going to be joined by a delightful mortgage specialist, but unfortunately, they got ill, and the lurgy has taken hold of them. So, though we're still going to talk about the same topic, which today is which mortgage actually fits your tomorrow, but we're going to talk about it from the point of view of the importance of having a decent mortgage advisor, a decent advisor on your own books who can actually help chaperone you through these crazy Himalayas that we are currently befuddled by. So, first of all, as per usual, I'm going to throw Hamish straight under the bus. Hamish, talk, please.
It becomes an important, well, it's always an important topic of conversation as to who should be helping you, who should be guiding you. I think we speak almost every week that speaking to the right people can make a significant difference to whatever you're trying to achieve within the property market. At this moment in time, we had this heavily sort of documented sort of aspects of the press going on and on and on about the Bank of England are going to drop the rates, the Bank of England are going to drop the rates. Prior to that happening, we have many people offering lower mortgage rates anyway, in contemplation for this to happen. However, it's ultimately what the impact is, because there's so many different types of mortgages, but there's so many different reasons why people are buying properties. And unless you know exactly what you're doing, of the best sort of outcome you can achieve, that expert is vitally important. In fact, even if you do know what you're doing, it's far better to get the advice from somebody who can speak about it. And I think those of us sort of, we can support, we do know mortgage providers, and certainly so too does Juliet, because she's arranging things sort of all of the time, from some quite complex ones to also some very simple ones too. And Chris himself too, who's involved with many sort of a variety of different size of properties which are going to need investment, are going to need some kind of mortgage. But they will themselves will not tell you, they won't give you mortgage advice.
No. And in fact, before her computer completely blows up into a puff of smoke, I thought I'd Juliet straight on. I guess you must get people all the time saying, but Juliet, can you point us in the right direction? Can you give us advice? And it's the last thing you can do is give them mortgage advice. You need a specialist for that, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, lawyers, there were sort of three firms, I think, that were regulated and in a position to give mortgage advice. But it's one of those areas that solicitors aren't able to advise on. So normally I would give an outline of the mortgage terms, etc. But I couldn't say to a borrower, look, this is suitable for your circumstances. That's exactly why your broker is there. So you've got to understand, look, you found this property, you want to purchase it. What's the end goal? Is it that you want to do a development? Do you want to do some refurb? What is it? Or are you buying this property to live in? Because if you are, then obviously, you get a residential mortgage for a term. But we're talking about rates, for example, and then you go on to, do I want a fixed rate? Do I want a variable rate? Now, if you're a bit of a gambler and you think, look, I think the rates are going to go down, you might say, look, I'll go in with a variable rate so that if they do go down, my mortgage payment goes down. Similarly, you take a fixed rate for, say, 2 years, and then that expires and it goes on to a variable rate. So you still benefit from the Bank of England's rate going down. I remember I had a client many moons ago. He inherited 4 properties unencumbered, meaning there was no mortgage on them. And he wanted to do stuff on it, or he wanted to release equity. And he went to a mortgage advisor. This mortgage advisor got him 4 subprime loans with, they were interest-only loans, and they were very high rates. Subprime lenders look at the level of risk, and you pay for what you get. And at the time when he came to me, it morphed into a litigation matter because he was being repossessed by these mortgage companies on all 4 properties, because he hadn't understood that this was an interest-only mortgage and he'd only been paying the interest, no capital. The loan term was, I think, 12 or 15 months. That had come to an end. And what had happened was the rates were in default. So he had to pay a much higher rate. And eventually, I think he lost those properties. So it's one of those things, we bang on understanding what you're getting yourself into, getting a right mortgage broker, and actually doing your diligence on that mortgage broker's history and background, because you don't want to be put in a direction where it's going to ultimately bite you. And there is an old adage where a lot of brokers, this is really wrong, but it happens, where they will set you on a deal. They will get you a mortgage offer with a lender that gives them the highest commission. So it's not necessarily for your benefit. It's extremely unethical, but they put you in that direction and they sell you this package. You can't afford, as a consumer, as a borrower, to go in blindly, hook, line and sinker, and say, okay, this person's got me the best deal. Maybe go with 2 mortgage brokers, get 2 mortgage offers and compare at that point. But you don't want to be led down a rabbit hole and ultimately find that, the 2 worst things that can happen to you as a borrower is either losing your property, and then that property doesn't have sufficient equity to pay off the debt. So you become bankrupt because they pursue you in your personal capacity. So there are lots of ramifications for getting this wrong. Then again, I see people choosing the right broker. They go on to build their portfolio. They completely understand the game. The key is that even the most seasoned borrower needs that mortgage guidance. That's why, they're CMAP qualified. They've got the qualifications, etc., to be able to guide you.
Is there any benefit to finding locally sourced advisors who are specialized perhaps in a certain area or either of geographical locality or even the style of property that you're going through? Is there any benefit to going through a specialist?
I think there is. Especially with development finance. So I've had brokers who've said to me, look, we go on site when the mortgage company's QS, their quantity surveyor or their valuer goes on site. They go on site as well because they want to understand the nature of the actual property. They need to understand, well, what's the exit route? Is the exit another mortgage? So another lender coming in to take out the lender that's funded the development, and they want to understand that property. When you get a mortgage advisor who cares that intricately about every single detail, then you're in the right hands. So I do think that it's important that you go with someone who understands the market. It's the same thing with a solicitor. I often get people who come to me, they're buying a house, it's a residential house, fine, but then they want to do some works on there and they want to get development finance, and they then say to me, or the borrower says to me, we're going to use the same solicitor that dealt with the conveyancing. Well, unfortunately, the lender wants development security, they want construction security, and the conveyancer does not necessarily have that information to be able to provide, a build contract or a collateral warranty or whatever it is that the lender wants. So finding a specialist that understands your requirements, understands your need, understands your ultimate exit route is extremely important. You don't want to be led up a garden path and that person says to you, well, I got you the mortgage and that was my role, done and dusted. Again, I'll give you another example. When I first started this business, I was in-house for a bank, very, very green. A mortgage broker promised me a letter of consent. He said, if the deal got funded, I will send you a letter of consent. This was in relation to a restriction on a property. I'm looking at it right now. I will send it over to you. I will get it over to you. And I spoke to someone. They said, yeah, go ahead, fund it. I funded it blindly. And I'm talking 21 years ago. Never got that letter of consent. He just got his commission and fell off the face of the earth. So you've also got those people who aren't willing to walk through the process with you. They get what they're after, which is the commission, and they're done.
That must have been ground shaking when you were that green.
it was a learning, and I never did that again. So never fund or never trust. You again, it's my PI on the line. But it's one of those things where if you're a person of your word, and this is how conveyancing works, it's never perfect. You take views, and you rely on undertakings, etc., for it to proceed and progress. So clearly, I was bitten, but not again.
Chris, once bitten, twice shy. Do you ever take the people's word over proven facts? Is that how you work, or you?
Not over proven facts. I generally give people the opportunity to. I generally give people the benefit of the doubt. So I give them the opportunity.
Enough rope to hang themselves with.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, I mean, in the world of overinflated property prices, sadly, mortgages are kind of a necessary evil. It's
a nutty position. When I was young, which is just after the earth cooled, you didn't always need a big fat mortgage to be able to buy a property. It was you did it, perhaps for the last umpteen amount of it, but you'd fund a good portion of it yourself. These days, it's such a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, well, it is a sad state of affairs that you used to be able to buy a house for a year's worth of salary.
Yes,
we can lament over that if you want, but it's not going to change the situation that we're in at the moment.
No, I know the past is a wonderful place to visit, but you wouldn't want to live there.
For the aspiring developers or anyone even wanting to set foot on the property ladder, unfortunately, gearing is a requirement. Unless you have oodles of cash, which most people don't, being able to use leverage, use gearing to actually scale your portfolio and borrow capital at scale, it will help grow your business. So it is a necessary component in how you do it and how you integrate it into your investment journey or property development journey, however you want to call it. But yeah, again, we always keep rounding to team members, and a broker is just another member of your team. That's a very critical one in being able to access certain institutional finance and sometimes non-institutional finance. There are different types of financing arrangements, setups that are available, both regulated and non-regulated. And each have different risk levels, different risk appetites, and having the right person on your team will kind of guide you through the path of pointing you in the direction of the people that you want to go and have a conversation with. But yeah, they need to really understand, as Juliet's already mentioned, that they need to understand what the end game is, what the exit plan is for what you're trying to do, what your intent is, and what you're trying to develop and build out. First on a deal-by-deal basis, but you explain the bigger picture to them as well if you wish. Generally, bigger pictures change the longer in the future they become. But yeah, having that team member is absolutely critical to being able to grow your holdings and grow your asset base.
It seems to me that there are multiple points of failure within this process, and if you can assure that one of the fundamental ones, which is provision of monies, provision of liquidity, enough that you can actually get it across the line, you need somebody you can really trust. And trust is built over time. So where do you go and find such people? I mean, do you through recommendation, etc.?
Yeah, I'd always use that as a starting point. Word of mouth recommendations. Don't necessarily go with the first recommendation. Interview people. You're effectively interviewing a new member of your team. So yeah, you want to have more than one initial 10-minute Zoom call with them or a face-to-face with them. You want to be able to quiz them, grill them, investigate what they're saying, take away the information that they're saying and actually go and verify it, and then do follow-ups with people. And you probably want a short list of 3 to 5 people that you may want to that have been referred to you, and then really get into the detail with them. Figure out if there's someone that you'd want to work with and that you get on with, because that's kind of part of the problem, part of the challenge, I guess, in the first. But also verify that they are able to perform. They do have credibility and integrity. They're honest in what they're saying, and they're someone that you can see can take you and understand your vision at the moment for what your business is and where you want it to be, and can help. They get it, they like it, and they want to be able to take it to that next level, and they can genuinely help you. So, for example, some of obviously our niche being social housing, lots of the brokers that we have conversations with, they're not really able to, they're not tapped into some of the very few products that are available that can help us and our clients.
Right.
So yeah, but you really do have to have those honest conversations about where you are now, what your intent is, and the field that you're operating in, niching down into what you're actually going to use each different property for, because based on what your use case is, that's going to have a massive impact on which lenders will want to lend to you, because they do have very different and differing risk appetites and ranges for what they want to lend money into.
Hamish, it seems to me that we always were told that buying a house or buying a property is, one of the most onerous tasks, other than divorce, that you can put yourself through. To make it smooth, there seems to be an appetite to go to one of these all singing, all dancing companies that will, they'll find you the property, they'll find you an app solicitor, perhaps a good mortgage lender, etc., etc. Is that a good way to go? To find a company that will just take all the pressure off your hands, and you can just leave it with them, and out comes the other side, a wonderful deal.
Actually, believe it or not, you can. We know of somebody particularly you can actually do that with, but we're not speaking about that at the moment. What we're trying to do is give some general guidance to people. If you're not fortunate enough to know somebody who can actually take you right the way through, you do need to look carefully. And I think it's evident from what both Juliet and Chris have just said there, that they're experts. They've been working for a number of years between them. And the experiences they've had, and Juliet kindly admitted to having made the occasional error that we learn from. So we are not, this group that we have here, we're not money lenders, but we do know people. We do know mortgage brokers. And the important thing is, and I think Chris intimated this as well as Juliet started it, but Chris reinforced this aspect. They are an important part of your team. And sometimes, in fairness, it might be better to engage with a mortgage broker before you even select a solicitor. But again, It's important. You must discuss. There are so many variations as to what you might want to do, and there are so many experts on different aspects. Because depending on what you want to do, for example, you can make a massive saving on stamp duty if you can't live in that house because you're developing it, either to live in it or basically you're going to invest. So there's so many different people that could actually be advising you down the way. And depending on who it is, and certainly I've known people go to the wrong solicitor who, in trying to get them down the route that the solicitor would like to get them down, they have not made the best economic decision on their behalf. They've made the best economic decision on behalf of the solicitor, because they've done very well out of it.
Yes.
But it hasn't suited the seller, or particularly the buyer in this particular case I was speaking of. There's lots and lots of choose carefully. And I think getting a conversation with people, if you can't have a conversation with them, don't work with them.
I think this is a fundamental point that everyone is really saying, and I'm going to hammer home. The most important thing you can do is build your relationship with people. And to build your relationship, you need conversation and communication, and you need information that you're asking to be answered. If they're not unwilling to answer it, or unwilling to get into conversation with you, then I suspect they may not be the right fit for you. And as per usual, I've been banging on about the fact that using people who are specialists in the area that can work together to form a team. And as Chris and Juliet has pointed out, and Hamish at various points, the team that you work with, it's no different from any other team. They need to all communicate with each other and work closely with each other towards that final goal. Thank you so much once again for every day being a school day. Thank you for giving me further information. Juliet Baboolal of gunnercooke, Chris Gilsenan of Root Home, and of course Hamish McLay of Search Convey. We are here every Thursday at around 10 o'clock talking about all things property. And I hope you'll find time to spend more time with us. Also, on Thursday, there's IOF conversations with Chris Gilsenan, which are often talking about more specific to the social housing sector, but also on Fridays, talking with Hamish McLay. This week, we're talking about cladding. Good Lord. And how people are locked into locations purely because of the bad decisions of others. But we'll talk about more of that tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Until then, I wish all of you a wonderful day, rest of the week. Keep your feet on the ground, reaching for the stars. Wear sunscreen. I'm looking at you, Juliet. And also, try and take care of that mental health. Bye-bye now.